Morning guys, we've got a different sort of video this morning. It's not the same as the usual daily reading videos, and it's going to be a bit longer, but I do encourage you to watch it and to sort of listen to what I'm saying in it. But we can't really ignore the situation that's going on at the moment in America and the wider implications that it's got for us and for the world as well as that country. And this morning I wanted to share with you guys actually one of my favourite Bible passages, which will seem a bit weird because it can seem quite negative. In fact, it's so much my favourite that me and my best mate Chris have made a promise to each other that when we've got the money, one day we're going to get it tattooed on us somewhere. And the passage is Amos 5, but we're going to be looking through verses 21 to 24 in the Message version. What it says is this: I can't stand your religious meetings. I'm fed up with your conferences and conventions. I want nothing to do with your religious projects, your pretentious slogans and goals. I'm sick of your fundraising schemes, your public relations and image making. I've had all I can take of your noisy ego music. When was the last time you sang to me? Do you know what I meant? Do you know what I want? I want justice. Oceans of it. I want fairness, rivers of it. That's what I want. That's all I want. This passage is God speaking to the people of Israel and speaking his heart out to us. It can sound quite negative, can't it? It can sound like, oh my word, God hates church and he hates the things that we do, and I don't think that is the case. I think what he's saying is that when that stuff takes over from the heart of who he is, that he's a God who wants justice, then it becomes negative. That's what people are currently marching for in America. We see so many of these cases of individuals who have received injustice. They've been killed in police custody and investigations haven't even happened. Some of the employees haven't even been fired by the police departments. That's why people are marching. There's an injustice and they feel angry and hurt. But I worry because I think sometimes we can find injustice overwhelming. I saw a number of you guys putting posts on your social media, and I think sometimes we can just find it hard to know what to do. When I was doing my masters, we had a module about the Christian response to global poverty. And I had basically like a mini breakdown in this class because we were talking about all the various injustices in the world. And I just started reeling them off, and I said, what do we even do? You know, we're sat in this classroom which has got lights in it, so we're killing animals and we're destroying the planet, and we've all got clothes on that have probably been made by a child in a sweatshop, and we've got laptops that have got, you know, devices in them and pieces of metal that have been taken out of inappropriate mines. All of this stuff going through my head. I found it overwhelming, but actually we can't be responsible for solving every injustice. We can only be responsible for those individual things that God calls us to at appointed times. And actually what this passage teaches us in Amos is that God's passion for justice is even bigger than ours. He's the one that will ultimately bring ultimate justice for the whole universe. But that doesn't mean that we can't do stuff about this now. I've seen really helpfully a few people sharing the parable of the lost sheep from Luke 15, and for those of you that can't remember it off the top of your head, in that story Jesus says there's a shepherd and he's got 100 sheep, but doesn't the shepherd go and leave the 99 in their field if one goes missing and he needs to go and find him? And you can look at that and you can say, well, surely that means he doesn't care about the other 99 sheep. He's left those sheep behind to go and find one. But actually it's that he values that one sheep so much that when that sheep goes into trouble, he acts upon it. And so that's the same in this situation. There's so many people and so many people that do matter and so many lives that matter. But in this situation, there's one specific body, one part of the church body that's struggling, one part of humanity that's struggling. And so we're called to help them. But what can we do? We're not going to fly out to Washington DC and start protesting. It's probably not appropriate to call for big protests here at the moment because of the current pandemic that's going on. What do we do? Well, I think there's a few things that we can do. And the first one is that we can educate ourselves on the issues. I think that we're not necessarily taught some of this stuff. We don't necessarily discover it. We also probably think this is an issue that's just happening in America, but actually there's still issues around race in the UK now. So, I encourage you to educate yourselves. Find out information about this. The second thing is that we can support from here in the UK. Write to your MP, write to our politicians, ask them questions about it, make it something that they want to engage in and act upon. You know, America's a country that we've got what they call a special relationship with, and so we can affect change there and speak with them. And the final thing I think that's most important is to pray. Pray about it. Pray for the protests. Pray for what's going on in that whole situation. Ultimately, we want peace. We want there not to be fighting and rioting and other things that are going on. But we also want justice, because that's God's heart in it, right? He wants justice to come out of this. And so pray for the situation. Ask God to intervene. Ask God to help. Protect those people that are out there. Help them. Prayer is really important, and it helps us as well, I think, feel like we've done something. One of the most depressing images for me to come out of the whole thing so far was Donald Trump taking an opportunity to stand outside a church with a Bible, having just said that he's going to unleash military powers on ordinary American civilians. He then sent a very clear message, I think, of saying this God's on my side with this stuff. The uplifting thing in that was that the very next day, piles of ministers from across churches in America and in DC went and stood in that same spot to say, that's not us, that's not our God. We stand with the oppressed. We stand with the people who are fighting injustice. And so what I'd say to you today is to reflect on that verse and have a look at it. But remember, don't be overwhelmed. God is the one who's responsible ultimately for bringing all justice out. But do educate yourselves. Support from here however you can, and pray about it. Anyway, those are some thoughts on the situation. Let me know if you've got any things to add to it, and continue to pray that you have a good week.